In this video, we'll build a custom color palette using the sample style guide I provided in the previous series, Customizing the Course Player. You'll find a link to it in the description below. Why is a color palette important? When I choose to insert a shape, it immediately defaults to a color. Insert a hyperlink and it has a default. The same applies to buttons, markers, quiz feedback, and so on. The color is determined by the theme you apply and the palette associated with it. Customizing your palette to comply with your style and branding guidelines saves you a lot of time reformatting common elements. Let's get started. I'll click Colors on the Design ribbon. Select Create New Theme Colors. This opens a pop-up where you can customize the default colors of many common elements. We'll begin by naming this palette. Clicking OK at the very bottom before closing this window saves it and lets you access it anytime. Before we start changing colors, here is some very simple color theory. If you want a color to display clearly against another color, there must be enough contrast between them. Starting at the color extremes, the text in the text box should not be black if your background is dark. You shouldn't use white text on a light background. Dark blue text on a light blue background will work if the contrast is great enough. We'll begin with Text Background Light 1. This is the default text color for dark slide backgrounds and shapes. A preview pane appears on the right. This is a good way to make sure the color combinations you choose work together. The left side shows the effect when you change this color. Let's see what happens when I change the color. You do this by clicking the color drop-down. There are several ways to change the color. Select a color from the palette at the bottom. Click a spot in the gradient at the top to select it. Drag the slider on the color bar. Enter the color's hex code in the hex field, or select a color from another palette. Remember, I'm using the sample palette from the style guide. I'll select My Demo as the palette we're using. Notice that there are already two colors in My Demo. These were the colors we selected when we customized the course player. I'll select white. After doing this, the hex field also updated. The color white is represented by the hex code hashtag FFFFFF. Click OK to save the changes to your palette. If you are building with me, make sure you save your file. We'll start where we left off and complete customizing this palette in Creating a Custom Color Palette Part 2. Thanks for watching.